Hey guys, Chris Harrison here, English instructor here at Gadsden State. And I've been teaching online now for about 9 years. Started with WebCT, kind of got my head around Blackboard now. I'm also a communications guy, rhetoric and communication. And I've done a bit of research in online classes and what communication norms and how they change and what works and what doesn't. So I wanted to share a couple of things about it with you. And the first thing that I really want to talk about is the concept of immediacy. Immediacy is the perceived distance between two people who are communicating. And naturally, it makes a certain amount of sense that you want increased immediacy would mean that there's a shorter perceived distance between the two people talking. And of course, in education, that's a really important concept. You want to seem approachable. You want to see the kind of person who is there for your students. And obviously that presents a real challenge when it comes to teaching online because it's a rather impersonal way of doing things. And I think unfortunately some instructors have this idea that it's sort of a wind it up and let it go sort of thing. I want to talk today about some of the things that I do to increase immediacy, to give the impression, even if I'm not really there, that I am, and that I am a real human that students can talk to and they can seek out in person when they need those things. So again, I think it's important to really think about this in the bigger picture of our general college-wide push for, say, for example, with the Advise program, on customer service, on being proactive, on being there for your students and for letting them know that you're there. It's really easy to kind of wind these online classes up and let them go. And sometimes there is the practical need to do that. But when impossible, there are some really good ways and simple ways that you can use to increase immediacy in your classes and increase the response from your students and the perception that you're there and generally affect their performance in a positive way. So first things first, I want to talk about announcements. We kind of get used to communicating via email, and I've seen online courses where pretty much every bit of communication between student and instructor is done through the message function in Blackboard. First of all, I hate that message function. I don't use it. I cut it off. Here in a minute, I'm going to show you how to set up a direct link to your own email. But whenever I have a class-wide announcement, I use the announcements page and I use announcements. In fact, if you log out of one of my courses, actually take that back, if you log into one of my courses, the very first thing that you will see, it is after we get through with the Start Here page that I keep up the first week of class. After that, my default opening page is the announcements page. Every time a student logs into my course, the first thing that they see is the last message that I've sent. And I send frequent announcements. I send them sometimes bi-weekly, but at the very least, I send weekly announcements. And some of these announcements are very short. They're simple things like argument. I've got new topics up. I've got a submission link up. I've got, the procedural stuff. I have this thing that you're looking for. I've added a video, this thing or that. But I also use it as a chance, sort of as the sort of warm-up period, like I use the first couple of minutes in class where I say, how are you guys doing? What are you working on? Here's what I'm seeing in the papers that I'm grading. I want you to think about this. Here are the common mistakes I'm seeing. It's the place where I get to give them in a general sense, feedback, a bit of positive, a bit of negative, a bit of critical interaction to say, here's what I'm looking at, here's what I'm seeing, here's what you guys need to do. And these are great, again, things to do once a week or so. Once a student logs in, they flip to their page, boom, the first thing you got there is a message from you that says, since the last time you came, here's what we've been up to and here's what I want you to think about. On top of that, whenever you create these announcements, if you haven't, you might notice that it gives you the option, let me flick here, to send a copy of this announcement immediately. I always do that. I always send a copy of the announcement immediately. That sends an email to their Gadsden State email address So if you have added new material to your course, you say you've added a new video, or you've updated a link, or you've created a submission link for them to turn in an assignment, then they need to know, and they need to know as quickly as possible, generally speaking. Basically, what I've gotten, again, as I mentioned with these courses, we plan everything ahead of time. We have a syllabus. We expect them to sort of run themselves in a lot of ways. But students really do respond when they get a message from you every week or so, or sometimes twice a week, that says, hey, I want you to know that I'm doing this. They're not there alone. Plus, the ones that it's going to motivate, it will motivate that, okay, Mr. Harrison is working on this. I need to get in there and get to it as well. These little reminders, that pop up on their phone or wherever, are very helpful and worth pursuing. Additionally, another thing that I do, and I'm not doing any this semester, I'm just too covered up, but about once every 2 weeks or so, in addition to an announcement, what I like to do is a short video blog. So instead of just a written announcement, I will turn on Panopto, just like I'm doing with you, and I will have a little, just a sheet. I don't bother with PowerPoints or Prezis most of the time, not for these little short ones. I'll just put out an outline on Blackboard, on Word or whatever, and display it on the screen. Show you that in a minute, and give them a little short 5 or 10 minute update. And again, not really much different than what I'm doing in a regular announcement, but once again, the time and effort put into the video, and it is something that is going to be more immediate when they can see you, when they hear you talking to them, and they know that you are tailoring what you're saying to what they've been doing the last 2 weeks, rather than it just being this sort of rote scheduled stuff that we have on there already. That lets them know that you're keeping up, and that is something that is been shown to be motivating. When it comes to my lectures and my Panopto videos that I put on here, I do want to mention a few techniques and sort of I guess tactics that I use in these videos. Let me just pull one up for a lecture that I put together when I knew that I was going to be absent from class. Now, again, this is one that I did for a class that I had face-to-face, but the same things apply when we are doing these for online courses as well. First of all, I'm a big fan of the webcam, I guess, perspective. It's more personal. It resembles what they would see on FaceTime or what they do on Skype or a video blog. It's not, I want them to see my face. I am a human. I'm not a robot. I'm not just a name on the website. I am a person, and my personality should show through there. Students take classes and prefer teachers and not because of personality. This is a place for you to show yours if you have it. Sometimes that's a questionable assumption, but we won't go there. But again, I like to have the heads up video. I like it better than a podcast or a recording of a lecture. Again, this is me in the camera speaking to you just like I'm doing right now. I have you as my audience in mind, and I'm going to talk to you specifically about what you and I are working through together. Right. Again, for some of my pre-made ones where I have a more involved lecture, something that I might use for 2 or 3 semesters in a row, yeah, I'll put together a nice Prezi or PowerPoint. But a lot of times I'll just throw these together with a Word. If you'll see here, I just have Word for Windows pulled up on my main screen, and I've thrown together an outline that I scroll through and discuss. And of course, they can get rid of my face if they want to, or if they think I'm handsome and just want to look at me, they can do the same thing. But and they can click through here. But again, the idea is, they want to see a human over there. It may seem idealistic or romantic or whatever, but it works. I promise you, it definitely works. They want to see your face. They want to see you smile at them. They want to see and hear you talk to them and think that you're only speaking to them. The other thing about these videos, these Panopto videos, you want to keep them kind of short. Generally for lectures, I try to keep them between 15 and 20 minutes and then send them off to some assignment or whatever. For the little announcements, I keep them 5 minutes tops. This is just to check in. There's nothing too serious. Unfortunately, I do have a few that run a little longer, 27, 30 at the most. I think my longest might be 40 minutes. But just from a production standpoint, those are pretty tough to put down unless you are very well rehearsed. I like to go from an outline. I'm a pretty improvisational guy. So a 15-minute video, I might have a couple of false starts. And so from a production standpoint, really long videos are dicey. Just from the simple point that say you're 25 minutes into a 40-minute video and then you mess up, well, you've just kind of blown 30 minutes and you don't want to do that. But once again, these Panopto videos are not rocket science. Dress nice. Obviously, I have a bit of a mess behind me in the photograph here, but right now, that is another thing. Make sure that you clean up behind yourself if you've got anything, your dirty lunch hanging out on the desk or something weird in your search bar. Clean that stuff out. Pay special attention and make sure that there's nothing distracting, if at all possible. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the use of email. Again, I'm not a big fan of the messaging system in Blackboard. We've already got an email. If you're like me, you keep it open on your desk most of the day anyway, or at least it's something that you're checking into periodically. Who needs 2 or 3 more to bother with? So I have I do a couple of things using email that are pretty helpful, and one is similar to the announcements. But so, for example, let's go into my grade center here. And as you'll notice down here, I've got my list of students, and we have an option to email students. What I will do a lot of times, say, for example, we have this assignment here that was due a week ago or whatever, right? And it looks like here, there's a significant number of students who did not turn this assignment in. One of the things that I like to do is the day after an assignment is due or the day an assignment is due, I click all of these students. Click every last one of them, and I'm just not going to do this all the way through. And then you have the option to email those selected users. So after every due date, and I don't do this all semester, because usually by about halfway through the semester, if they're not turning stuff in, they're not going to turn stuff in. So why beat a dead horse? But for the first few weeks, I'm on them. That assignment's due today, I'm sending you, or if that assignment was due yesterday and I don't have it yet, I'm going to click your name, and I'm going to send a mass email out that says, if you're getting this email, you need to get on top of your work before you get too far behind. And I'm a little bit, lenient with that stuff initially. I want them to let them know that, yeah, I am paying attention. No, this is not a robot. And yes, you do need to keep up with this. So this is something that I do periodically, or not really even periodically, but the day after every assignment is due for the first 3 to 4 weeks, I will go through and I'll send this email out and I'll direct it strictly to the people who aren't doing very well, or who aren't turning things at all. The other option that you have using this email that I find really helpful, and of course as a writing course this is a little bit different, but now that our tutoring center covers most subjects, and as does Student Support Services and our other resources, you can come in here and you can sort your students by grade. So for example, we're halfway through this course or so. I've got a big group of students who just aren't really doing well, and they may or may not be turning stuff in. But if I've got students that are making below a B, say for example, I'm going to click the total average column and sort them in ascending order. Click everyone who is making a 79 or whatever or below, and send them an email. And it says, you're doing okay in the course. You've got a C right now, or you're at least. I'm proud of you for doing your work. Our same old sandwich. A compliment, criticism, compliment. But say, hey, if you're not happy with this C, or if you're not happy with this D, you might consider a reference to Student Support Services or the tutoring center or whatever. The idea is, once again, I'm directing messages strictly to these students. I'm targeting my students to let them know I'm paying attention to what you're doing. I'm seeing that you're having trouble, and I want you to succeed. So try this out and see if it gives you any, if you get any, if you get anything out of it, right? One last thing I want to show you guys to do is, let's get out of here. Let's just get back over here to our announcements pages. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the messaging function in Blackboard. And 9 times out of 10, well, not even 9 times out of 10 out of 10, I delete it. But as you may or may not know, if you've got a class, whether you've created a Blackboard page for it or not, they can message you through Blackboard. That's a different issue, and I'm not really worrying about that. But in the absence of that message, they still need to get in touch with you. And I like to keep that, once again, as simple as possible so that they don't have to click out of this, click into Outlook or whatever, or go log into Yahoo or Gmail or whatever that they need to. In other words, I want them to be able to do it all from here. If they want to message me, I want a little button that says message Mr. Harrison. So that's what we're going to, and that emails me to my Gadsden State email address. And that's what I want to show you how to create right now. First of all, we'll build a content area. And we'll call it whatever we want to. We'll call it something like email Mr. Harrison, right? And I'm not going to make that available right now. I'm going to create that. Then what I'll do down here is I'm going to go into customization, tool availability, and that gives us this very, very long list of tools. But we can scroll down to email. Yeah, here it is. And if you'll notice, email is one of the few of these that has a little menu option, and I'll click on that, and we'll click on email settings. And then what this will ask you is, who do you want to allow people to email to? Now, I'm not a fan of letting students email each other. If they're going to communicate with each other in my class, or at least on my platform, they're going to do it with full transparency on Blackboard. If they want to find another way to get in touch with each other, they can trade stuff in another way. But they can, I'd send it, so I unclick all of these except for instructor users. In other words, if I'm the only instructor available in this course, this is the only person they'll be able to send email to. So I'm going to turn this on. Okay. Now I can get out of there. And I'm going to go over to my new email Mr. Harrison link, page. There's nothing in there just yet. Excuse me here. So I'm in here now. Now I create an email tool. And if I can find it, tools area. Maybe is that right? Ah, here it is. Take that back. That's the wrong one. I did this just a couple of minutes ago and it worked just fine. Where is it? More tools, sorry. Then you can click email. Bing. Now, send email to Mr. Harrison. Maybe put an little bit of information that says this link goes directly to Mr. Harrison's GSCC account. Any responses from him will return to your GSCC email account. And that, again, sort of re-emphasizes the notion that we have students should be picking their emails, checking their emails regularly. So I've submitted this, and now, see, I have a link here. They can link directly to me, right? Just click on it. And again, let me back up here because I'm in edit mode. Okay, so if I click edit mode off, they see all instructor users. So that goes to me. They can type their subject and their message in, and this will go to my Gadsden State email account, which is open either through my Gadsden State portal or in Outlook, whichever one you're doing. So again, I hope this has been pretty helpful. Just a few little things that I do to increase my presence in the course, to increase the sense from my students that I'm there, that I'm in it. I'm not just this, robot in this course. They're not drifting alone in this course with no one to look over them. Hopefully, if you just try just a few of these, with the videos, don't try and do them all at once. Just do one every few weeks or something like that, and over time you'll build up a library of them. For example, if you look at my list here for this course, I've got videos that I've been working on since January, and some of these are even a little bit older than that. But I don't usually try to get rid of them after about a year and update them somewhat. But anyway, just keep that in mind. Regular announcements, video when you can, and sharply directed emails are three really good ways to communicate and increase your presence in your course and the sense of immediacy with your students. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something. Have a good week.